Take a slow breath before you continue. Let your chest rise gently, then fall. Don't rush this. What you're about to read isn't meant to convince you of anything. It's meant to help you understand something your heart may already know but your mind keeps questioning. Because there is someone in your life who never stopped loving you. Not loudly, not perfectly, not in a way that was easy to recognize. And yet, despite those feelings, they pulled away. Not because love disappeared, but because of a silent reason they've never fully said out loud. This isn't a story about someone who stopped caring. It's about someone who cared so deeply that it frightened them. Someone who felt something real with you and didn't know how to hold it without risking themselves. From the outside, it may have looked like distance, confusion, mixed signals, silence. But beneath all of that, love was still there, steady and unresolved, quietly shaping their thoughts long after they stepped back. When someone never stops loving you, it doesn't always look romantic. Sometimes it looks hesitant. Sometimes it looks like avoidance. Sometimes it looks like them watching from afar instead of stepping closer. Love doesn't always push people forward. For some, it triggers every fear they've ever learned to survive with. This person didn't pull away because you weren't enough. They pulled away because you mattered too much. Loving you wasn't casual for them. It wasn't light. It wasn't something they could place neatly into a category and control. It reached places inside them they had worked hard to protect. Places shaped by old disappointments, betrayals, and moments where vulnerability cost them more than they were prepared to lose again. Before you came along, they had learned how to manage their emotions, how to keep things balanced, how to care without falling, how to connect without giving too much. And then you disrupted that balance without trying. You made them feel seen in ways they hadn't expected. You made them feel understood without demanding explanations. You made them feel a warmth that didn't ask for performance. And that's where the silent reason began to grow. Love, when it feels safe, invites closeness. But love, when it feels overwhelming, can trigger retreat. For this person, loving you meant facing questions they weren't ready to answer. Questions about the future, about commitment, about whether they could show up consistently without hurting you or themselves. They started to realize that if they stayed, they couldn't remain half-present. They would have to be real, honest, emotionally available, and that terrified them. They didn't trust themselves with your heart, not because they didn't want you, but because they feared failing you. They feared promising more than they could sustain. They feared letting you see the parts of them that were still healing. So instead of stepping forward imperfectly, they chose distance. Silence felt safer than vulnerability. Pulling away felt more controlled than risking a bond they couldn't undo. You may have felt this as confusion. One day they were close, attentive, emotionally present. The next, they were distant, quieter, harder to reach. That shift wasn't random. It was a moment they realized how deep their feelings had become. And instead of celebrating that depth, fear stepped in. Fear whispered that love always comes with loss, that closeness eventually leads to pain, that it's better to step back now than to fall apart later. They told themselves they were doing the right thing, that space would help, that time would make the feelings fade. But real love doesn't dissolve on command. It lingers in thoughts, in memories, in moments that suddenly remind them of you without warning. They hear a song and think of you. They see something small and wonder if you'd like it. They replay conversations, not to analyze you, but to feel close again without being present. Even while pulled away, you remained emotionally near. That's the contradiction of their silence. Distance didn't erase love. It just hid it. And hiding something precious for too long creates its own kind of pain. They miss you quietly. They worry about you silently. They wonder if you've moved on, even as they struggle to do the same. The silent reason they pulled away wasn't lack of feeling. It was fear of what those feelings demanded. Loving you asked them to grow, to heal, to risk. And at the time, they didn't feel ready. So they chose the path that felt less dangerous, even though it hurt both of you in different ways. What makes this even heavier is that they never stopped checking on you emotionally. Even if they weren't present physically or verbally, part of them stayed connected. They noticed your changes. They sensed when you were pulling away too. They wondered if you were okay. They wondered if they had hurt you more than they intended. But reaching out felt complicated. What if it reopened everything? What if you asked questions they couldn't answer honestly yet? So they stayed quiet. Not because they didn't care, but because they cared too much to come back halfway. They didn't want to return unless they could do it differently, better, more honestly. And until they felt capable of that, silence felt like the lesser harm. You may have questioned your worth because of their distance. You may have wondered if you imagined the connection. But connections like this aren't imagined. They are felt by both sides, even when only one side is visible. Love doesn't always announce itself through actions that make sense. Sometimes it hides behind fear, waiting for courage to catch up. This person still carries you with them, not as regret, but as something unresolved, something meaningful, something that taught them what depth feels like. And that's why the feelings haven't faded. They've just been paused, waiting for the moment when fear loosens its grip. If they return, it won't be casually. It won't be without thought. It will be because something inside them finally feels ready to risk honesty over safety, to choose presence over protection, to accept that love doesn't require perfection, only sincerity. Until then, know this: someone can pull away and still love you. Someone can choose distance and still feel deeply. And the silent reason behind their absence says more about their inner struggle than it ever did about your value. Take a moment now and reflect. Did this bring someone to mind? Did it explain something you've been trying to understand for a long time? If so, trust that feeling. Not every love story ends loudly. Some pause quietly, waiting for the moment when fear no longer speaks louder than the heart.